I'd like to now introduce you to pâte choux, also referred to as éclair paste. We will be placing our water, butter. When you're adding your ingredients to the pan, don't splash. You also want to be careful to add all of your ingredients. Salt and sugar. Heat this on medium heat to start the melting process. While that's coming to a boil, we want to go ahead and sift our flour. It's very important that you sift the flour because if the flour has clumps, those will never mix out of the paste. Pâte choux is one of the only batters that made in the bake shop that is actually cooked first and then cooked again. It's very important to watch it when it's coming to a boil and not allow it to boil for too long, or else too much of the water will evaporate and your paste will come out dry. Pâte choux is used for éclairs, cream puffs, and the classical French wedding cake, croquembouche. A croquembouche is cream puffs that are filled with pastry cream, dipped in caramel, and then stacked almost to look like a Christmas tree. Frequently, they are elaborately decorated with pulled sugar, spun sugar, and on nougatine stands. And nougatine is a decorative component done with caramelized sugar and almonds that's rolled out and then cut while it's still warm. As your water comes to a boil, stir it occasionally to make sure that all of the fat is melted into the mixture. You want to be sure when you're cooking anything that your heat is underneath the pot and not up the sides. When mixing pâte choux, you want to use either a heat-proof spatula or a wooden spatula so that it doesn't become hot and you don't burn yourself. Once your water has come to a rolling boil, you will then add your sifted flour all at once. Begin to stir straight away. As you're stirring, you will start to get a very thick paste. This is the hard part. You really got to work for this. As it cooks, the humidity begins to evaporate out of the paste. The starches in the flour begin to gelatinize and bind the water, and the fat is going to tenderize later on. So you got to make sure that everything is very well mixed. You want to cook your mass until it turns into a thick ball, clearing the side of the pot and also creating a film on the bottom of the pot. When you take this over to the dish sink, be sure to put water in it straight away, or else you'll be scrubbing for a really long time. When the paste has created a thick film on the bottom of the pan and now clears the sides of the pot, you're ready to put it in your mixing bowl to put it on the mixer. Carefully remove your pot from the heat and place all of the paste in the bottom of the bowl. The next step in making our pâte choux is to take our cooked paste and place it on the mixer. We will be mixing this with a beater attachment. Turn the beater on low and mix it until the mixture cools down low enough that you can comfortably place your hands on the sides of the bowl. If you add it in too early, the mixture will cook the egg proteins and you will not get a rise when you place them in the oven. Once your mixture is cool enough that you can comfortably place your hands on the sides of the bowl, be very careful checking this because the bowl does get exceptionally hot. We're going to take your eggs and you want to add them very slowly, one egg at a time. Allow each egg to mix in completely. A good rule of thumb when you're adding something that has to be completely incorporated before adding more is mix too much and not too little. The mixture will begin to break apart right after adding and will slowly begin to come back together and look like a paste. At that point, you know you're ready to add more eggs. Once you see no signs of egg moisture, you may add another egg. Occasionally, stop your mixer and scrape down the sides and the bottom. Be sure to scrape the beater as well. We want to make sure that we have a completely blended mixture when we get to the end. Continue to add the eggs one by one until 3/4 of your egg mixture is gone. Once you have added approximately 3/4 of your egg mixture, be sure to scrape down the bowl and we need to check. This formula may not always use all of the egg depending on how much moisture you cooked out of the batter or how large your eggs are or how much humidity your flour contained. There are two techniques to check whether you have added enough egg. The first one is to turn the mixer on and quickly turn it off. You want to watch the way the ribbons fall. They can relax a little bit, but they need to maintain their definition. The other way is to remove the bowl from the machine, pick the batter up. It can fall, but it needs to still maintain its shape. Now, go ahead and pipe our éclairs. We need to get our sheet pan, our parchment, our piping bag. First thing is fill our piping bag. Take the bag and fold it over the top of your hand. This will allow you to fill the inside of the bag while keeping the sides clean. Use your hand to pull off the batter. Pate choux, literally translated from the French, means little cabbage. When these bake, they get ruffles almost like the leaves of a cabbage. Once you have filled your bag, fold the top up, and now your bag is nice and clean. In order to make sure that you are able to pipe on the paper without picking it up, you want to put a small dot of the pate choux in each corner. One of the shapes that we can do is cream puffs. The next shape we're going to do is éclairs, but we want to make sure they're all the same size. For this, we're going to make ourselves a guide. Simply take your parchment paper and fold it into even sections. Pipe a little bit of batter in each corner to keep the paper from pulling up. Unfold your guide, and you now have lines in between which to pipe your éclairs, and they'll all be the same size. Pipe with a steady pressure, stop, and snap back for a nice shape. You want to also make sure that when you're putting your éclairs down that you leave enough space. Pate choux should at least double in size during the baking process. When we bake pate choux, we start it at a high temperature in order to allow the steam to be created and for the item to puff. This is a product that does not contain any chemical leavening, which means it does not have baking soda, baking powder, baker's ammonium, or any other source of leavening other than the steam that is created within the batter. Once the éclairs have puffed and begin to get some color, we then turn the heat down, open the damper so that the moisture can evaporate. The only way to check if an éclair is done is to break it open. If you break it open and it's still eggy and doughy inside, it's not done. You should be able to break it open, and it should have nice large air pockets and look nice and dry. The shell should also be nice and crispy. Since you have to break some open, you've got to be sure to make enough so that you can check it during the cooking process. Now that you have made your pate choux, piped it, baked it, and allowed them to cool completely, it's now time to fill your products. The first thing we want to do is fill our pastry bag with some of the pastry cream. Fold the bag over the top of your hand so that you keep it clean. You want to be sure to allow your éclairs or cream puffs to cool completely before filling them. You also want to make sure that your pastry cream is nice and cold. Fold the bag up, and now you see the bag is still clean on the outside. You don't have to use a tip to fill éclairs unless, of course, it helps you. You want to take a pastry bag and just cut a very small piece off the end. Be sure that you always throw the little piece away, because that's the kind of thing that ends up in your final product. Frequently, people will drill a hole in the bottom and fill it from the bottom. However, it frequently doesn't get into all the cavities. A better choice is to slice your éclair almost in half and open it up to fill. To fill your éclair, open it up and fill both sides. Squeeze it together, and your éclair is now full. To fill a cream puff, simply drill a hole in the bottom of the cream puff with your paring knife. Place the tip of the bag inside the hole and fill. Be sure to fill it all the way up until it just barely starts to come out of the top. If you're not ready to dip your eclairs yet, place them in the refrigerator since they are now filled with pastry cream. I would now like to show you how to make a soft ganache. Place your chocolate into a stainless steel bowl and place it to one side. For our next step, we're going to place our heavy cream into our pot. Along with a little bit of corn syrup or glucose. The corn syrup or glucose is an optional item. It does, however, help prevent any sort of crystallization, and it makes for a shiny, smooth, elastic product. Don't allow your cream to sit there and boil too much. You could burn the bottom of it, or you could boil off so much water that your cream will reduce, and you will end up with a very thick, tight ganache. The texture of the final ganache is determined by how much chocolate is in the mixture versus how much cream. A very firm ganache is going to be 1 part chocolate to 1 part cream. A loose ganache could be 2 or even slightly more parts cream to chocolate. Pour all of it on top of your chocolate. Allow it to sit for just a moment so that the chocolate has a chance to melt. Once your cream is in your chocolate, go ahead and start stirring. And you want to stir from the middle to create an emulsion. Chocolate ganache is an emulsion of fat and water. We have not only the fat in the heavy cream and the fat in the chocolate, but we also have the water in the heavy cream that wouldn't normally mix together. By carefully putting this together, we are able to create a product that maintains its emulsion. As the cream begins to mix in, make small circles in the center. When you're stirring ganache, you want to be very careful not to use a whip and not to incorporate air. Air bubbles are very difficult to get out of your product once they're in there. And if you're glazing a cake, those air bubbles will mar the surface. As the mixture begins to emulsify, it starts to turn shiny. Gradually widen your circle, including more and more of the cream to the side. A good ganache should be smooth and shiny and have no graininess. Scrape the side of your bowl and make sure that everything is completely combined. Be sure to remember to get the bottoms and the corners as well. We can add butter to our ganache once it is cooled down. You want the ganache to be below 100 degrees because you don't want the butter to melt too much and separate out of the mixture. This is a very gentle emulsion, and if we add a bunch of butter and it melts too fast, we're going to have oil that will separate out from our mixture. Stir the butter in just as you would the heavy cream. Butter is an enricher and a tenderizer, and is excellent used in soft ganache to help keep it soft. Soft ganache can be used for several different things. We can use it to dip éclairs. We can use it to glaze cakes, and it can also be piped into truffle shells to be used as an after-dinner dessert. Soft ganaches are beautiful for glazing products, including our éclairs. Take your baked éclair and dip it into the top of the ganache. You want to be sure to glaze the top of the éclair, not the sides, and if need be, clean off the edge. And you want to lift it straight up so it doesn't drip all over the place. Carefully place it back down on your pan and dip the next one. Always remember to wear gloves because this is a ready-to-eat product.